Justin, pleased to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Tell us first about the Project 91. What is it all about?
Well, NASCAR has a new race car this year that is very, very different than all the cars they've raced in their whole history. And they now have a car that's very similar to GT cars and different kinds of racing that happens around the world. So I saw this as an opportunity to attract some of the greatest stars in motorsport around the world to NASCAR and have it be a car that they can learn quickly and they can get up to speed in quickly. So with the success of our race team, I went to our executives and I said, I have this idea to build this part-time third team that can be sort of the landing spot for stars of motorsport around the world that want to give NASCAR a try. So we built a brand around it, Project 91, car number 91, and put a team together where it could be very competitive, very professional, and drivers with a lot of talent can come and do well. And then I had to go out to the world and try to find my first driver.
And the first driver is Kimi, obviously, from one of the best drivers in the world. Why Kimi? Why did you want to have him?
Well, I had to spend some time and thought thinking about who the right first person was going to be, who the right first driver was going to be. And I wanted somebody that was globally relevant, that moved the needle where it was newsworthy for him to come to our sport, and the media would embrace it and it would be a big deal. For Kimi, obviously he was retiring from Formula One, and I knew that there was an interest in NASCAR there because he'd come and raced 10 years ago in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. I actually raced against him in that truck race, and so I knew that he had an interest in America and had an interest in NASCAR, and through a mutual friend of ours reached out to Kimi and just tried to see if there was any interest there, and there was, so we started the conversation.
Yeah, Kimi is a very straightforward, not a lot of BS. How easy was to actually convince him, and how was the process? How long time it took to have the deal signed?
Well, I don't know how easy or hard it was because I've never done this before. So, PJ and I went to Europe and we met with Kimi, and I think it was impactful for him that I came to Europe to see him and spend some time with him and explain to him a little bit about what we're all about what Trackhouse is all about, and just to see if there was some interest, be able to meet face to face and be able to see if there was some real interest there, which there was. So I went back to the States and we started communicating on what a program would look like, and ultimately there was a way that he wanted to see it and there was a way that we wanted to see it, and it took us a few weeks and we got to a place where those two things were the same, and it worked out really great for his schedule and everything. So really it was really only a couple of weeks, because I think after we met with him, he had an opportunity to watch some of our races on TV and see that Trackhouse was doing well and that we were winning on the road courses and doing real well. And I think, once he spoke to his family about it, there was the interest there, and we were able to put something together pretty quickly.
On the racing side, adding a car to a team is always a big challenge. I've been in the situations where it seems like also the other cars are influenced, and it's very easy to mess up the things how they normally work inside a team. How big of an effort is to add the third car?
It's a big effort. I mean, and you know this. And what was unique about Project 91 as it exists today is that we didn't hire one person for it. We didn't really do anything. I went to our existing team and I said, this is something that I want to do, and I'm asking everybody to work a little bit harder to make this happen, because if this really works, then there's going to be interest from a sponsorship standpoint, there's going to be interest from the sport, and we can actually build a team around this. So I am asking a lot of people to work harder than they've traditionally had to work, because we only bring 2 cars to the racetrack. But everybody in the company understands how significant this is, and how big of a deal it is, and how great it is for our sport to have somebody of Kimi's caliber come and race with us. So that extra work they've had to do, they've done with a lot of enthusiasm and with a positive attitude, and we have a really well-prepared race car here and a lot of very enthusiastic and excited people.
You've been able to follow Kimi in a simulator. You heard feedback from your team. You are concerned or you are convinced?
I'm not concerned at all. I mean, I've watched Kimi since the first day he showed up in Formula One. He's been a hero of mine, and so obviously I know, the amount of talent that we're working with, and now the experience that he has, and I don't have any. I'm not nervous at all about his preparation, his speed, his talent, how he's going to be able to compete with these guys. I think the difficult part for us is making sure that he understands the procedure of the race and the rules and how we manage restarts and the aggression of all the other drivers. I think that will be the challenge for the weekend, but But I mean, when you bring a Formula One world champion to any form of motorsport, I think you can't help but be optimistic about what's possible.
I listened to one of the interviews you did before this weekend, and you said that you were really impressed how Kimi had prepared himself already. How have you helped him to prepare himself for this weekend?
You know, Kimi hasn't needed much help from me, really. I mean, what my job has been over the last few weeks and months really is to make sure that the team is prepared, that when he comes to America, that everything is set up perfectly for him and he can make the most out of his preparations. And so, you know, we've all been lucky that my two drivers, Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain, have been more than willing to help Kimi and to help him understand how the sim works and how these cars work, and be able to spend time with him. That's been very, very helpful. Really, I've just tried to put people around Kimi to where the transition is as easy as possible and he has all the support that he needs, and then I can kind of just stand back and enjoy the event.
Obviously, he still has had limited time to prepare himself for this weekend. What do you expect him to show on the track?
I mean, I think, you know, look, the NASCAR Cup Series is one of the most difficult racing series in the world, and you know, there's a lot of nuance to it that makes it very, very unique. But I expect, you know, I expect Kimi to be very fast right away. I mean, he knows about this racetrack. He's had time in the car now. We were able to test the car. He's been in the sim. He's got all the tools, and he's been able to meet everybody on the team and understand how everything works. So, you know, I think it'll be, you know, learning the car on this track through practice and qualifying, making sure we get a good lap in qualifying, and then I think he's going to be going to school a little bit during the race. But these races are long, so there's a lot of opportunity for him to learn through the first half of the race, get a couple pit stops, and then when it's time to go, you know, I think anything is possible.
How difficult it is with the rules. I mean, when I studied the rules, I still don't know much, but
Yeah.
I find them quite confusing.
Yeah.
And of course, for the driver, as we spoke, it's quite challenging as well.
Yeah, you know, I think what it's going to take is, obviously, you know, he's had an education the last week and a half, and us, you know, really before that, watching the races on television, but us being able to explain to him how these races go. But he's also going to have a lot of help during the race. You know, we've got spotters around the racetrack. He'll have a crew chief on the radio. So people will be able to remind him, you know, when to come to pit road, you know, what the rules are as far as how late to be able to commit to pit road. We've got rules around, you know, how you turn into your pit box and make your pit stop and all that. So he'll be able to practice all of that during the practice session, but then in the race he'll have constant reminders and a whole team of people behind him to make sure that every time something's about to happen, he understands how it needs to happen and how it's going to happen. And like I said, I think that he'll be going through a learning experience through the first half of the race, and then when we get after that last pit stop, when it's time to go try and win, I think he'll just go push the button.
Yeah, one technical detail. In our broadcast with F1, we always talk about the tires and the different compounds and how difficult it is. What about these NASCAR tires? How difficult? It's probably very hot track temperature, and I know this track creates a lot of grip, so maybe not the most difficult one on tires, but still, what are the key elements for quali and the race?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, obviously we don't have the complexity of multiple compounds from a strategy standpoint. I think we're all on the same tire and we all have to drive them in the same race. So, you know, it is a high grip track. This is a new tire that we have this year, so everybody is still learning the tire. I don't expect to see much fall off. I think there will be a lot of grip at the end of the run, just like there is the beginning. But you do always have to manage the tire. You can drive it too hard and then have it be a problem for you later in the run, because we are racing cars that are 3,400 pounds. I mean, these are big, heavy cars, and that's a lot to ask of the tire. So while these Goodyear tires that we have are really, really good, there will be some tire management that will play into the strategy of the race, and I think he'll have an opportunity to feel that on this surface. What was nice about the test that he did last week is that he was able to run 2 full tire runs, so he could feel the tires fall off and see how much the car moved around, you know, once a lot of the tire life was worn off and it was hot and slick and all that. So he's got a little bit of that experience. It would just be applying that to this racetrack in the race. But I suspect he'll do a great job at it, and we'll have a well-prepared car for him.
I would say we are really excited. We thank you for bringing Kimi back to racing, and Mervi, as always, has more questions.
Could we see Kimi driving more races?
I mean, I think that's up to him. I mean, I think Project 91 is something that I'd love to see deployed at multiple races during the year. I think for sure it will be the only one in 2022 that we do. But, you know, the way that it's gone so far, and I think the opportunity that we have here this race weekend, there will be a lot of interest this winter in Project 91 to where hopefully we can build, you know, a team around it and be able to race all the road courses next year, maybe a couple of more. And, you know, certainly Kimi will be the first call that we make, and if he has an interest, he's got a seat ready for him.
Has there been any more interested drivers who have been interested in your project and said, like, I would like to come?
Yeah.
Other drivers?
Yeah, a lot, actually, and which is great because there was a lot of interest before we even really announced that Kimi was driving, and we really even said a lot about what Project 91 was about, and I think that that's an indication that there's a lot of interest around the world in motorsports to come try this NASCAR thing, and the whole idea of Project 91 is to be the landing spot for these stars of motorsport to come to America and race NASCAR. So I suspect there will continue to be a lot of interest, and we'll have a lot of opportunity moving forward.
Any names?
Not yet. Kimi Räikkönen.
And one more. People are always interested about money. How much did you need to pay for Kimi to get him?
Oh, I can't answer that question. We'll say it worked out well for both of us. How about that?
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
a good weekend.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Thank you.